Good day everyone. In our subject, Computer Programming 1, our first lesson is about introducing Java technology. So this is your today's lecturer. I am Mark Manota. Let's start. Now, let's a little warm up. So object-oriented is a different procedure programming. It's like Turbo C, Pascal, Basic. So these are different ways that pertains to an object. So in the first place, what's an object? So object is considered a thing that can perform an activity, which can be a set of activities that can perform into a objective or into object behavior. So this one is the interface consists of set of commands that a command that can perform a specific action. So we have different kinds of object-oriented programming: C, C++, Python, Delphi, Ruby. So these are the kinds of object-oriented programming languages. So the main question is, what is Java programming language and what object-oriented programming language that are you familiar with? So after this discussion, we should be able to first describe the features of Java technology. Second, to describe the feature of object-oriented programming. Third is to discuss between compiler and interpreter language. Then the other one is to describe the download and how to install Java programming language or the Java itself. Then using the command line, how to run a Java program. Then to identify the different technologies available or what are the different technologies offered by Java. For further reading, please refer to your course materials. So for the textbooks, recommended textbooks, and for the discussion with your classmate and with your lecturer. So then there's a series of questions that can be done in your course materials. So please refer to your course materials regarding for today's topic. What are today's lessons agenda? So we have the agenda. So first is about the Java technology. Second, the installation or how to configure a Java and what's a product lifecycle. So you should be identified with that. Then introduction of object-oriented analysis. So this is the three agenda that we're going to discuss for today's lesson. Let's discuss the first agenda, which is about the Java technology. So first, what is the humble beginning of Java and its key features? Second, Java technology products, and lastly, the programming methods can be used in Java. What's the humble beginning of Java? So Java is based on C and C++ programming language. As you observe, when you see C and C language, it's also an object-oriented programming language, but in terms of structure, which is having commonality with Java, because the main foundation of Java or the origins of Java is C and C++. So this one is around 1991 that was been introduced by Mr. Bartek Marrington or Norton and Sheridan and Mike Sheridan and Mr. Gosling, which is known as the Green Project. So it is originally named OC. So OC is very common. So this one is due to market issues and product conflict. So they use Java instead of OC because of it's very common. So they use Java in the year 1995 as the official product name. So usually Java is a kind of coffee in Indonesia that usually often drink. So during that time when those three guys that thinking because oak is very common, so what's the alternative name that's more unique or more eye-catching in the market? So it's during that time they drinking a Java coffee. So that's the idea that okay, let's name the programming language which is Java. So the rest is history. What is the key concepts of Java programming language? First, it's object-oriented. Second, it can be distributed. It's very simple. It's multi-threaded. It's secure, and lastly, it's platform independent. So that is the parts that make Java make it more unique than the other programming language available. That's why Java usually often is one of the basis in terms of development that you should know about Java because of these following key concept of this programming language. In the key features of Java, so in terms of simplicity, so why Java is very simple. So technically, because its origins or it originate with the two programming languages, which is C and C++, that instead of you manipulating the memory, or if you try to program it and to try to manipulate something inside of it, so typically in C and C++, they usually do is they do the direct to the memory or direct to the storage, direct to the variables. So it's much riskier or it's time consuming in terms of how to manipulate things. So in Java, instead of using that kind of approach, it used the object approach. So this one, you don't manipulate directly the data, but you manipulate the data using by object approach. So that's why Java is very simple to program. So usually, conventionally, the result of a Java program is a Boolean value, which is either true or false, which is represented by 0 as false and 1 as true. So that Java is very simple to program because in terms of handling it, in terms of coding it, it's much easier to understand, much easier to code rather than C and C++. Now, multi-threading. So what's a multi-threading? So this one is the one that supports by Java language. So this one is the run of concept concurrently at the same time with other modules, or in terms of direct approach such as database, such as another object or another program, which can be displayed simultaneously. So this one is very efficient in terms of memory, in terms of processing, memory allocation. So multi-threading is one of the key features of Java. Now, in terms of distributed, so Java programming language is a distributed language approach, or it is a distributed programming language. So this one is support with a distributed network of technologies, which is RMI, which is a remote method invocation, CORBA, which is common object request broker architecture, and URL, which is universal resource locator. So this one is the capabilities of Java technology, allows two pieces of code that can be downloaded over the internet and can be executed in a local machine. So take note, class, that Java programming language and Java technology are not the same thing. So it's very different. So Java technology is the product that offers by Java itself, or the Java family. And the Java programming language, which is the developing tool for the programming purposes. So don't be confused about Java technology and Java programming language. Why Java is very secure? So Java technology creates this kind of functionality in terms of having a secured in terms of coding. So what are these components that is very secured? First, in terms of provision of distributing programs, such as applet for reading or writing to a hard disk of a computer. So this is because of virtualization. Then in terms of varying of all Java technology programs contains in a valid code. So which means that if you use another Java platform, it still runs. It's still compatible. So usually, most Java programs that you can use all codes can be validated, it can be verified. So it's not more recognizable on that part. Then support of digital signatures of Java technology code that can be signed by the company or person in the way the other person receiving the code can be verified of the legitimacy of code. So that's why there's called signatures on the code when you do a Java program. So it can be verified it's this person is who really developed the program or not. So it can be done in terms of digital signature. Now, in terms of manipulation of memory by using pointers, so Java prohibits using of this one. Typically, its predecessor, C++, is using a pointer approach or memory approach. So Java, it doesn't use memory, or it still consumes memory, but it doesn't consume or it doesn't manipulate directly. So it has its own process how to handle data. So it doesn't touch direct memory for Java. then the image of illustrates that the technology programs is secured, is not allowing invalid code to execute on a computer because of the code authenticity or code validation of Java, which is one of its features that it can check if it's a valid code. Now, what is a platform dependent? So this one, as we know, Java is a bytecode, which is composed of class. Usually, it has a JVM, or known as a Java Virtual Machine. So this one it resides in the local system that it doesn't require or it doesn't choose what specific hardware that can be available, specific operating system. As long as it has the JVM or the Java Virtual Machine, all programs that you created, it can run as long as I've said, as long as there's available of Java Virtual Machine. So usually, some says that Java is a machine independent because instead of it refers to the hardware, it refers what virtual machine available on the local machine installed. So usually when you use Microsoft Linux or Mac, as long as there is a Java virtual machine, it can run. So that's why it's very independent regarding that its hardware or software specifications. It's very independent. Platform dependent program is which means that as long as it runs on because of Java virtual machine, so it can get because of Java is a bytecode, which is it's a very small program which is can consume a very less of space. And as long as there's a Java runtime environment that exists in the local machine, so any hardware is either old or newer, as long as there's installed a Java environment, it can run, or as long as there's installed a Java virtual machine, it can also perform some tasks, or your program can run at any hardware you like, as long as you complete the two conditions, which is having a Java virtual machine or a Java runtime environment program installed on the local machine. So Java program needs more virtual machine because as I've said that as long as there's a Java runtime environment or as long as all components of Java installed on the local machine, either PC-based, appliance-based, mobile, as long as there's a Java virtual machine or Java DLL or Java IDE installed in that devices, so it's very independent. So it can run. It doesn't require any processor requirement or any memory that can be consumed. So it works. It will run 100%. What are the products of Java? So we have a lot of family of Java programming language. So we have the EE, the FX, the VDJ, the Java EV, the MSA, the Java Card, the Java ME, the Java SE. So these are the kinds of products that are available by Java. So the commonality between all of this is Java language. So in terms of API, so they have kinds of API, which is the EE, the FX, the TV, the MSA. Then in terms of platform, with the SE, which is the standard edition, M is the mobile edition, and Java Card. So all of them is compatible of Java language that you're using. So when you do your code in Java SE, there's a high possibility that it can also run in Java ME. It can run also on Java Card, as long as you comply the set requirement, which is having a Java runtime environment or a Java virtual machine. Let's discuss about Java technology products. Now, let's discuss firstly Java SE, known as the standard edition. This was typically created, or this is the brand of a platform developed for the desktops and for the browser base or the applet. Because this one is for the application and the web page implementation. So this one designed for it. So this one typically this is one of the industries using or usually used, which is the standard edition. So this one is for desktop application, for website. So this one is one of the tools used in terms of Java. Java EE, known as the Enterprise Edition, this one is really designed for a large scale for the server and client-side distributed applications. So this one is more complex than the standard edition because it's designed for one-is-to-many approach. It has more secure functionality. It has more complex libraries that can be used, or usually in double E is usually used in the multi-threading programming, because as I've said, it is a client server approach. So the application that usually created in this one is more often in one is to many or many to many. Technology by Java known as the Java card. So Java card is typically a card-based program for Java for the following functions, which is for identification purposes, for security purposes, for transaction, and for mobile phone SIM. So typically, they use Java card platform for this one typically for a card-based application. So this one is either for smart card or for the SIM, for storing phone memories or phone number from mobile phone to the SIM card. So usually they use a Java card programming coding or Java programming using Java card platform. Java ME, known as the mobile edition or micro edition. So this one platform is for the mobile phones. So typically, is it related to the Android? So some part of it's related to Android, but but in terms of library, but not totally related to Android, because Android is an operating system. So Java ME is a programming language. It was designed for previous mobile phones or previous smartphones, such like N70 and 90. So this one is they are more familiar in the older generation of smartphones, but usually can be embedded to other mobile devices for even in today's, which is already integrated to Android operating system. There's few parts also on iOS, but more often it's more recognizable in Android, but its original function is our original platform is designed for mobile phones. From the standard mobile phones from a monochrome to colored to smartphone. So this one mobile edition usually used as a developing tool in terms of a mobile phone application. Another technology by Java is Java TV. So this one is usually done, or usually if you're familiar with internet TV, so this one is one of the platform or one of the programs in Java or products of Java that usually integrating of computing and television. So they use Java TV as a API for this one in terms of integrating internet to television. So if you see a smart TV, so usually it's created in Java. Java, which is having a Java TV API or a Java platform. After we discuss the product, so let's discuss next the methods of programming. So the most familiar or the most conventional programming method is called the procedural programming. Procedural programming is typically taking in terms of step-by-step procedures that it's like simply cooking an egg. First, you need to get an egg, then you crack the egg, then cook the egg to the fire, or is it either side up or scrambled egg? So just another series of steps. So procedural programming is typically a step-by-step basis, which is also under object-oriented programming. Java also compliant for procedural programming, but usually it's more focused on the on terms of procedures rather than objects. So that's why it's called procedural programming that we practice, which is the object-oriented programming. So this one is opposite in terms of methods in procedural programming. Instead of sequence to answer a problem or to create a program in terms of sequence, in terms of procedures, or in terms of steps, we are referring to an object. So this one is OOP or object oriented because which is using a modular approach, which means that you create your code independently. You can segregate the functions or the procedure. You can separate it from one part of the code to another part of the code, or you can make the code independent to one part of the program to another one. So this one, in terms of object-oriented, it has the module approach or modular approach that you will call the program when you need it, or you're calling a routine when you need it. Not you don't need to go to that step, or it's not belong to the sequence, or nor it's supposed to be. You should follow certain steps in order to solve a problem, or in terms of coding. So in terms of object oriented, it's a modular, or it's a module that any part of the sequence, every part of the routine, anytime, you can call a certain procedure, or you can call a certain module. Creating a sequence that you will do the same routine all over again. So to ease that problem, because it's very difficult to read and difficult to maintain. So most of the programmers today is using the object-oriented approach, which is more manageable, it's more efficient than the procedural. One of the components of object-oriented is information hiding. So typically, information hiding is just the code is internally implementation is or remain hidden for outside reading. So usually, every part of the module is not usually appear, rather not usually appear when you compile it. Or when you compile it, or when you implement this, you don't need to include the source code. Not previous other programming language on the old days that you need to include the source code when you deploy the program. So this one you can also, in terms of object oriented, you don't need to include the source code. You just include on your program when you deploy it. It's just the executable file and the related libraries that you use, or the runtime environment required in order the said program to be run. Then in terms of code reuse, because it's modular, so you can reuse the code anytime. Anytime you can just simply represent by a library, which is you can reuse the routine from one program to another program because of modularity. Because of your codes you create in a module approach, so this one is much easier in terms of recycling code, or in terms of reusability. You can utilize your coding from one program to another program. So that's why Java is, or object oriented is having characteristic of code reuse or code reusability. Okay, which means that when the program has a bug, you can easily patch without affecting other activities of the program. Not unlike its predecessors, that if there's you need to plug something, or you need to update something, or you need to debug something, you need to stop everything. So this one, in object-oriented, you just simply, it's much easier to debug, it's much easier to update, because you just simply update the modules and usually the application itself without affecting other parts of the program or other parts of the files that need to be upgraded. So this one, object-oriented, is much easier to, in terms of debugging, in terms of troubleshooting, it's much easier than the procedural programming, because in procedural programming it's very difficult, or it will take a hard time to detect the bug, or in terms of maintenance, in terms of troubleshooting, it's much harder than the object-oriented programming. So let's proceed to our second agenda, which is the installation of Java and the life cycle. So we have three agendas. First is to how to download and install Java, then how to set up IDE using a NetBeans, then the last thing is the product life cycle. So let's start. How to set up a Java development environment, because Java virtual machine is usually integrated in the operating system, but usually how to install a Java development tool, or the Java development environment, which is another thing. So this one is much easy step, or easy procedure. That first, you need to download a JDK known as the Java Developers Kit. So that's the first step, which is provided on the Java website. Then you should set a path to be installed to install your JDK. So conventionally, we put C program files, or simply the drive itself. So the third step is to compile your Java application using the command line. So because As we know, we have different kinds of Java environment or Java platform or Java programming tools or Java editors. Some says that you have the NetBeans, the BlueJ, the Notepad using Notepad. So we have different kinds of approach to create a Java program. So we should usually in practice we use the command line because some Java programs is created in a different kind of Java platform or Java development environments, which is I said previously. So as a normal routine, so we usually compile it in a command line approach. How to set up a Java environment, development environment or JDE. So first, go to the oracle.com/java or to the Java website, which is checking your Google. Then you should select Java platform, for example, Java SE link. If you are to use Android, so the Android link. Then you want to install the version for your platform, so usually we get the latest part, we don't get the older part. But conventionally, due to issue in terms of hardware issue or operating system issue or technical or in terms of technical issue, so typically we get is either one level down or the newest edition available on the website. Now, then download the platform, then follow the instructions based on the user manual provided by Java. Then set your Java path, which is drive C program files. That's the most conventional path that we install a program. Then you just simply compile your application, which is done. So in case nothing works, so just proceed to previous step. How about NetBeans? So this one is typically one of the Java runtime environment that usually done in Java, and also another development tool in Java, which is the NetBeans. So it's also the same procedure also in installing Java development environment. So instead of JDE, you use to Java NetBeans or Java NetBeans IDE, typically available in the Oracle website. Just go to JDeveloper in Oracle. Then if you want to install Eclipse, so just Eclipse from IBM. So this one is in terms of full integration, easy deployment, smart editor, easy project development, and built-in source code control. So these are the feature of IDE using NetBeans. So the common thing for this tool is it's provided by Oracle, which is you can find in the Oracle website. So JDE Java environment developer in NetBeans IDE is quite different. So if you want to use a NetBeans programming or programming environment, so you should install the NetBeans IDE. How to IE setup using NetBeans? So NetBeans, you can download Java NetBeans into netbeans.org. This application is, the beauty of it is the Java properties, it detects automatically because of smart intelligence, because when you type in a code, it automatically detects what particular function or particular method that you're returning. Then there are bundles available for other application or other APIs or platform available for Java that also can be integrated in NetBeans, such like Eclipse. So one of the latest version is 7.0. So it's either every year or sometimes NetBeans release another edition. So it's either within this year or next year they're releasing a version 8 or version 9. So it's also recommendable to update your NetBeans program for your Java programming or for Java application. Besides from Java IDE, there is also known as a new project wizard. So this one is, as we know, wizard, it is the easy approach in terms of creating a Java project. So this one also features by NetBeans. So this one is a context of a project that can require it to generate the source class that you need, depends on the requirement you want to do. For example, if it's an applet project, a mobile project, a DLL project or a class project. So this one is typically automatically generates a set of classes or set of libraries that needed to be used or to be used, and automatically detects what the part of the program that you are doing or you want to create. So this one is also have a built-in script known as a build AXML, which is usually get instruction from the IDE. So this one is much easier approach in terms of how to make a program or making a project in how the project wizard looks like in your course materials in Java NetMeet. Our last topic in our second agenda is the project life cycle. So the project life cycle has 7 stages. These are the analysis, design, development, testing, implementation, maintenance, and end of life, known as the EOL. So this one is usually activity or project-based activities. So analysis is the conceptualization, the idea, the requirements. Design, how it looks like, or what will be the sequence. Development is the coding process. The testing is to identify if your program has or developed project or developed product has bugs or not. Then maintenance for specific timeline. So usually in terms of application maintenance, database maintenance. So typically depends on the project which part of the program that you're going to maintain. Then the end of life. So this one usually is the life expectancy of the program. For example, some contracts or some activities is for 5 years, for 10 years, or experimental or a very short thing, let's say a 6 month, minimum of 6 months, a 6 months program to be usually for testing purposes or for simply to check if it possible, if the program is possible or not, or if the project is possible or not. So usually minimum 6 months. So this one is expectancy or the lifespan of the project. So usually it's in the contract or between the agreement between the parties. So this is more deeper in terms of project management. So that's another subject. So our third agenda is about the object-oriented analysis. So we have 3 topics for this agenda. So first to analyze the problem in terms of object-oriented analysis, and identify project domain, then identify criteria, then making solution classes, then behavior. Then third is to design a model using class using UML or Universal Markup Language. So these are the 3 topics that we're going to discuss in our third agenda. Object-oriented programming or project-oriented analysis is like based on data and processes. So this one's coined by different methods, which is by Butch, Jacobson, and Rumboldt method. So this one is usually the basis of how to manipulate object or how to manipulate data using objects. So that's the concept. So in terms of Java, the object is represented by a class. So this is the template or the blueprint of the program which is created in Java, which is consists of classes, another set of class, or represented by set of objects to be that used to manipulate data and becomes information, or which can be manipulated is either into a memory approach or database approach or file handling. So it depends. So in Java, the main foundation of it is by using a class. So this is typically the layout or this is where you code your programs in Java. In terms of methods, so methods nothing but members of provide service of the object. So usually it is based on objects is methods and objects are usually a reference base. So which can be done in a variable or classes or part of the library of Java. So this one is corresponds to a specific object to be executed in terms of variables, in terms of another set of methods. Then attribute is a field of what is the component of the class. So it's either in terms of data type, in terms of null values, in terms of void, so it depends. Now, in creating object in a class, it's called the instantiation. So this one will be, if you create a class, it's instantly generates its what will be possible output, or it already, if you use NetBeans, so it automatically creates what class are you going to create or what particular file you're going to build. So automatically using Project Wizard, everything components that you need for a specific application or specific project is instantly created. Now, in terms of inheritance, this is a process of the object acquires properties of another. So this one can be inherent or it can be transferred, or one of the part of the program is can be referenced to another set of codes or another set of library or another set of modules. So that's the beauty of object-oriented. So this is much more. In the second genre, which is problem domain, addition criteria, case analysis, or case study situation, or case study solution. So what is a problem domain or domain model? So this one is what is the jurisdiction, or what will be the scope, or what will be the idea, or what will be the concept of the project, or what's the concept of the program. Now, the domain class is the domain that denotes the type of the object, so that's called a domain class. The attribute is the description of the source of the type of the domain or the domain class that you're using. Association is the relationship between one domain class to other domain classes. Then additional rules, this is the symbology, or which is attached by comment or notes that usually reminds the programmer or those people who will create the program in Java. What's a domain class? So a domain class is denotes an object in terms of description that set things with a common feature. So that's the idea of the class. Now, we have three kinds of object. We have the business object, we have the real world object, and the events object. So typically business object, which is manipulated in terms of business order or in terms of business processes. The real world object, which is typically tracking in terms of or other scenario besides beyond business processes. In terms of events, so this one is in terms of activity. Then a domain class is also have its attributes, associations, and other classes that can be correlated to each other. What is a UML? So this is a universal markup language. So this one is make the idea, or it make the concept, or this is the illustration of your program, or usually the charting. So this one is a universal blueprint that anyone can understand what the concept of the program, what flow of the program that you want to do. So this is the idea of using a UML. Now, the usage of UML usually is a three commonly used. So this is a sketch of your program. This is the blueprint of your program, and in terms of programming language, so this is the idea, or this is the ways and means that you are going to use this programming language. So this is the usage of UML. What are the different kinds of UML or modeling language? So we have a lot of it. So we have the use case, we have the class diagram, we have the object diagram, we have the sequence diagram, the collaboration diagram, the activity diagram, the component diagram, and the deployment diagram. So these are the different kinds of UML that we often use for programming. Use case diagram is describe the functionality, or in the terms of the function of the program. The class diagram, this one is what are the classes need to use for the program. The object diagram is the representation of objects that you need to be used, which is correlates to your class diagram. This one is typically more in higher programming languages, which is usually often in Java or visual programming. This is usually sequence diagram. This one is reference to the sequence of the program, or how the flow of the program will work. So usually this is a representation of how the flow of the program will be done. Collaboration diagram, this is the object of terms of sequence messages, which is combination of information from the class. Then the state chart, which is in terms of behavior. the activity diagram, which is the flow chart of the activity set of activities. So this is in terms of routines. Component diagram, this is the nature-based behavior or the components required for the programming. Then lastly, deployment diagram. So this is the illustration how you're going to deploy the program or the code itself. So in the course materials, so there's a samples of how the UML, what UML looks like. So please refer to your reading materials and for your textbooks and for your further reading and for your references. What we learned for our lesson for today. So we all know the background of Java, the characteristics of Java, different products of Java, what are the methods in programming, then how to install Java in a local machine, then what's the levels of lifecycle in programming, then the analysis of object-oriented, then the different kinds of UML. So for our next lesson will be Introduction of Java Programming. So this is your lecturer. I am Mark Manata. So goodbye.